what are you guys' opinions on drafting Steelers players?
I'm all in.
Yeah, I'm high on some, low on others. So let's go quarterback first. I'm not drafting any of them. Nobody in that quarterback room is rosterable, in my opinion, in a standard league. I think the best bet for Pittsburgh is to start Trubisky. I think he's the best of the three. I believe he's underrated, and I think a year under Brian Daboll and behind Josh Allen has probably improved him more than any of his playing time he's had so far. But I wouldn't draft any of them. Then at running back, I am extremely high on Najee Harris. I actually have him as my running back too. I think he's the second best running back in fantasy football. And going back to the same thing I said earlier, it's all about opportunity. This guy had more opportunities than any running back in football last year. 401 carries and targets combined. Second in that category was Jonathan Taylor at 383, the best running back in football. Joe Mixon was third at 340. So, that's a huge discrepancy. He had over 60 more chances to touch the ball throughout the season than the third best running back. So, it's too much usage coming off a healthy year to not take him over a Derrick Henry or Christian McCaffrey, where they're both older backs who missed significant time last year.
Najee is going to be a dude. Like you said, Coop's mantra of having over 200 carries, 200 touches a game, or 200 touches a year is a good starting point for drafting running backs in fantasy football because they get more opportunities, whether it be out of the backfield on routes or getting handed the ball. Najee is a workhorse. You very rarely see anybody else in the backfield during a Pittsburgh Steelers game. And that's kind of unheard of in today's NFL as well. Very rarely do you see anybody else beside Najee back there. And he was quoted earlier in the week saying that he'll literally touch the ball every single play if that's what it takes. He doesn't do, carry restrictions. No, it doesn't take days off, for lack of a better term. But I think of the players on this roster, especially, I think he's going to be the highest draft pick of anybody, obviously. But he may very well be a top five pick in your draft. Definitely, if you're in the top five, I would have him circled on my draft list, ready to go moving forward. So let's talk about these receivers: Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, George Pickens. Which of these guys do you think is going to have the biggest year? And which one would you go after first if you had the opportunity?
Well, Chase Claypool just got injury, so I think I would wait to pick him before anything else comes out on that. So, and I think Deontay Johnson, much better threat, playmaker. Granted, he drops about every other throw, but the dude is a stud when he does catch the ball. So I think Deontay Johnson's first off the board for any of the Steelers guys.
Yeah, he's definitely the top pick. But, I look at all of them in terms of where they're going. Where can I get this guy? And in terms of best value, I'm leaning Pickens. I love rookie wide receivers just because you really don't know what you're going to get. So if you spend a 13th round pick on a rookie wide receiver, it's not a big deal. You can drop them and you haven't lost a starter. It's not somebody you invested a lot in. And if they hit, they're changing the league for you. I think the numbers of Claypool and Johnson both drop. I'm not saying that Big Ben had a great year, but I think there's too many mouths in Pittsburgh to have 5 fantasy relevant players. And that's not including a quarterback. I don't think they can sustain 3 wide receivers that are relevant in fantasy, a tight end, and a top 5 running back. There's not enough offense to go around in a team that we think is going to be sub 500, probably the worst in the division. So Johnson's great, target monster, second in the league last year, had 169 balls thrown his way. So that's 10 targets a game. I just don't think he can repeat that volume. Same thing with Claypool. He's been consistent, right at 60 catches and 800 yards both years in the league. But Big Ben's gone. George Pickens has came in, and he's been the standout in camp, right? The quarterbacks are raving about him. He's making highlight catches. So I think he's going to take some of that volume, and it might not be enough to move him past them in terms of like 1, 2, 3 where they rank, but it's going to be enough to devalue where they're being drafted.
Yeah, I like Pickens. When you come from a place like Georgia, and Georgia's getting to be like Alabama with players littered all over the league, he flew under the radar here at Georgia the last couple of years. I think he got hurt, came back. He wasn't really the number one guy. Slipped in the draft a little bit, but if you read anything about what's going on in training camp right now, Mr. Trubisky is high on George Pickens, and with the relatively unknown of Pickens moving forward, you're probably looking at people more leaning towards safety help with Johnson and even Freiermuth up the middle, and we'll get to him in a minute. I think Freiermuth honestly is a sleeper moving forward. But Pickens is probably, no pun intended, my pick to draft out of these three receivers because he might have the best opportunity to catch the most balls. And if the quarterback receiver relationship and trust is there with Mitchell Trubisky, with the other two covered up most of the time, he's going to get everything underneath, which is, in a PPR league, is massive. And, obviously he's a good athlete, so he's going to make something happen. So other than Freiermuth, I don't see anybody else on this list that even warrants a mention. Being a Kentucky guy, we can say Benny Snail, but he's not a fantasy football player that's going to get drafted. Unless something happens to Najee Harris, God forbid, Benny Snail may move forward and be the number one running back. But Freiermuth is a little bit of a name that I like to look at and be like, hey, is he another guy that can take a step forward, kind of like a Dalton Schultz type of player? Like a guy that is a tight end or in red zone threat consistently. When they're inside the 20, he's a guy they go to. I do think he can be that option. I honestly do. Is he draftable? Probably not. Is he somebody that you probably put on your watch list? I think so. I think of the tight ends that you're looking at the bottom of the screen now, he could fit anywhere from that 6 to 7 range with the players that are on there right now, in my opinion. Talent-wise, he's in there. Production-wise, not yet for me.
Yeah, I think there's, like you said, there's a pool of tight ends. Like after 8th for me, you look at Dallas Goedert. I think after him it drops off, and then any one of those guys you can throw a dart at. You got Gesicki, Knox, Cole Kmet in Chicago, Freiermuth. I think all those guys are kind of whoever you like the best is probably going to give you similar numbers to the rest of the people in that tier. So I think, Freiermuth's going to be drafted in a lot of leagues. He's 11th on ESPN right now. So if you want to take a shot on him, I think it's a fine choice.
I don't think you take him unless these other guys are gone, obviously. He's not going to be the 4th, 5th tight end off the list.
Yeah.
Don't do that. If you're going to draft him, make sure all these other guys are gone first that are going to get catches and get targets.
Yeah.
Don't go and draft. Go ahead, Coach.
That's a great thing to call out because just because we say like George Pickens is the guy I'm targeting out of these receivers, I would never take George Pickens over Deontay Johnson or Chase Claypool. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying based on the value of where these guys are being drafted. Look at their ADP on the websites, their average draft position, see where they're going. And at that point, that player would be the best value in our opinion. So that's a good thing to call out. Like, yeah, we're high on Freiermuth. He's not a top 5 tight end.
He's probably going undrafted in almost 95% of the leagues.
Yeah, that's for sure. But, we're all about finding that sleeper pick. That guy that you have 2 picks left and one of them's got to be a kicker and you don't know who to draft. If Freiermuth's available, I'd reach for him. Same thing with Pickens. I'd say Pickens probably won't be there, honestly. People do tend to look at rookie wide receivers very close when it comes to fantasy football. Same thing with rookie running backs. Almost nobody's looking at tight ends down below the top 5, top 6. They hear the name Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, but they haven't really been relevant in terms of statistics in a while. But tight ends are really, really hit and miss in the NFL unless you're Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews, because they're going to get 10 looks a game at least. But with Freiermuth, he's not a bad guy to go after if you got 3 picks left, and why not? To hell with it.